Y'all, Wizard101 just announced a resist change that we need to talk about. So if you're not in the loop, on Thursday, Wizard101 made a pretty crazy decision when it came to damage stat max. Very quick TLDR, right? They're adding a lot of new circle jewels and new gear that gives more circle slots in the upcoming update. And with those circle jewels, they're adding 10% damage jewels that every school has access to. However, even though they're adding jewels and slots for those jewels that give 10% damage, they're not actually making those affect the damage stat max. And again, I go through it in the previous video, but basically what that would have created, in my opinion, is a situation where people would have given up every offensive stat on any pet that they made and just put those onto the new circle jewels that they have, hit very close to the allowed maximums for damage and pierce, and then run pets like this. This is basically the meta that would have been created with the change that they announced on Thursday. And y'all, if a storm running around with nearly 70 resist to 4 schools sounds bad, think about how bad it would have been for ice wizards, life wizards, death wizards, myth wizards to do it. The game would have been absolutely crazy. PvP as a whole would have crumbled apart. I'm really happy we didn't reach that scenario, because today they announced that they're also changing the resist maxes, and I don't think this was initially planned, but I think they realized that if they went through with Thursday's plan without making any extra tweaks, PvP was kind of not going to be, like, you know, playable. So what you see on your screen are the newly announced resist maxes. What this means is that damage is going to go up slightly. Resist is actually going to be basically nerfed in terms of what we've experienced up to this point. And the big increase that we're going to see is health, because all the new square jewels in the upcoming update give a ton more HP. However, please keep in mind that we will also lose flat resist with those, meaning the extra HP might not matter as much as it looks on paper. So for the first time since Test Run came out, I feel like there's some sort of balanced update. It only took them 3 weeks, but we're here. Now, I did want to look at these resist maxes and, like, you know, talk about how I think, you know, maybe that'll affect some schools a little differently. For one, it affects the schools with the lowest allowed resist maxes the most, right? Obviously. And right now, Storm is that school, right? A 55% resist max, even at the max level of 170, is just not that high. Now, should Storm really be a high resist school in PvP and competitive formats? Probably not. But let's say that you have a double resist pet with ward. Now you're only getting 5% out of that 15% value from that ward, which really makes warding not worth it almost whatsoever. You're almost certainly better off running a mighty pet to increase your universal resist a little bit, and running, you know, outgoing pins instead of shield pins, just ignoring ward and resist pins altogether. Even the higher resist schools, like, yes, a resist pin might be useful to them, but they're still going to lose quite a bit of value on those. Like, they're going to hit their max well before the full value of the resist pin or ward is accounted for. Right, to kind of prove my point, right? In the new upcoming update, the max resist and advanced content that Ice can have is going to be 80. If I had a brace jewel, I'd only be at 77, right? So if I had a ward or a pin, I'd be getting, like, literally 3 value from those. That's a really crazy shift, y'all. That means that the outcome of matches aren't going to be fully, you know, determined by whether you happen to ward to someone and they didn't ward back or not. Ever since they added resist pins, this has been a serious goddamn issue. I'm really happy they're taking this seriously. This is stupid, in my opinion. I feel like we've never been in a situation where the game is balanced enough offense-wise where every school is somewhere around the same page, but then the second you throw on a ward or resist pin, the game is overwhelmingly in the warder's favor. It made for a meta where you just put 2 resist pins for 2 different schools and 2 ward talents to 2 different schools on every pet on every school, and you basically had extra resist to 4 schools. That's been the meta since Novus came out and shield pins were introduced. I'm excited to see a meta without setting, and I don't know if that's actually going to be a fun meta or not. It's just going to be something that's actually playable, unlike a quad ward meta. Now keep in mind, this is a temporary change. They're probably going to do something with resist maxes. I hope that it's not crazy like before, though, because maybe they realized how stupid ward is and how easy it is just to run a bunch of resist, throw on ward and brace, and literally not play better than your opponent. That's been an issue for a while. There's still many issues that could crop out of this. There are some schools that I would argue need ward to compete. I think Storm needs Death Ward to compete against Death, because I don't think Deaths are Storm resist pinning at all, and they're still winning very easily. But I would never run a ward talent if I'm only getting like 2 or 3 value out of that 15. I would never do that. So who knows? Maybe this will leave room for, I guess, other strategies. Maybe ward was never the right way to deal with the death to begin with. I kind of doubt that. So this isn't a perfect update. Just a little bit better than the news that we had yesterday. I'm excited to see these new resist caps, like, interact with the lack of flat resist. Could this be a meta where everyone has, you know, equal access to winning a game and you're not just completely dogged on if someone's pinned or warded to you? My other concern is actually raids, because this is an advanced content stat cap, meaning PvP, you know, if you're gonna help PvP with this, you might inadvertently hurt raids with this. Right now, the meta is to run ward pets fully as when you raid and run a bunch of damage through pins and other things. For my death, right, what I did when I was raiding was I just ran a bunch of resist to a bunch of high DPP schools while running like literally max storm damage. But now with the new resist caps, these wards are basically useless. My pins, wards, all of that, like I'm basically 73 resist is my, like 75 resist I want to say is my limit. So I guess this does affect how easy it is to, like, you know, set for advanced content bosses, but I'm not really sure it's going to make enough of a difference to, like, affect your ability to win a raid. That's the only good news with this. I don't think once you know how to defeat a boss, I don't think you need to set super hard for that boss to beat it, especially not with the way raids are right now. The big question is, what are people going to do in place of resist pins, right? If you're a healing school, you're going to put outgoing. If you're not a healing school, you're supposed to put block. And that's an interesting concept, because I would argue that if you actually put block to certain schools, you will win against those schools more. A lot of people don't realize this, but the way the game's designed, like because of the varying levels of offense and defense that a school has, you're almost all on equal ground if you're hitting into, like, you know, just your normal stats. No setting, no brace, no debuffs. Like if a storm were to trade equivalent hits, right, pip-wise with a life, and no one was set for each other, you would have a pretty similar number of hits to kill each other. So when you add a small debuff like a block rating, right, every time the life maybe crits on a storm with a life blocking pin, maybe, like, you know, they'll do a little less damage. And that advantage, you'll feel it if you win by the one turn that you needed to tank by, right? So there's a very good argument for still using blocking pins. It's just not something, in my opinion, that people are going to concretely feel like, yo, I'm going to look into block, right? People aren't going to think about block, but I genuinely think it's like a resist pin, except not in the broken way it used to, like, you know, work in the game. Just a simple mathematical argument. If you trade a lot of hits with someone and you have more block, you will actually benefit from more block rating. It's that simple. So I think that is where the meta is going to move. That's super interesting to me because I really like the idea of small defensive increases when you add something, not like big ones like ward and resist pins. We'll see what the final version of all this is. Obviously, it's a work in progress. I'm hoping that we don't arrive again into an update where they just make it so you can just set out your ass for a certain school. But we'll see. Maybe we'll find out that that's necessary, and what this is just like a middle ground for making the meta playable in the meantime. Let me know what you guys think. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, I highly recommend it. You'll probably see why they needed to do this. But regardless, right, if all you got out of this video is that the resist maxes are changing, what do you guys think of the new resist maxes? Do you think they're balanced? Do you think some schools need more? Do you think some schools need less? I look forward to reading all of y'all's comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Leave a sub if you're new. And as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon. And yeah.